No one calls me Elizabeth, except my dad, and he's an asshole. So if you don't mind, my name's Daisy.
Well, I think that it is, as much as anything else, this film, How I Live Now, is about the power or the myth of the English countryside, although ironically most of it's filmed in Wales, because there's more unspoilt, beautiful countryside there maybe than there is in England. And of course that's why it uses Nick Drake and Sandy Denny on the soundtrack, and a sense of harking back to maybe a sort of idealised medieval sense of Englishness and of the power of the countryside, the magic of the countryside. But then it transforms into something else. It transforms into a kind of dystopian vision of England in wartime, and the countryside itself kind of morphs into something that is quite oblivious to the pain of those within it. It sort of stands mute and watches, and I suppose the countryside changes depending on the mood of the viewer, the mood of the protagonists. You know, to begin with, it's a love story and it's quite light and simple, and so the countryside has this romantic quality. But as the things become darker for the characters, the countryside takes on a darker aspect itself. But I think it's this sort of this mute, standing back, observing feeling that you have. The trees are just swaying, and whenever horrors are happening around them, you know, countryside, the nature is still there, and the vines are growing, and the leaves are falling. So yeah, I mean, I was interested in exploring all of that folkloric theme, and of making a film which is contrary to the kind of the popular dystopian film that's made in America, which is always about police cars exploding and skyscrapers being hit by giant lizard monsters or whatever it is, and actually said, you know, what would happen if we had that scenario, but we're in the English countryside, we're isolated, we don't really see any of that stuff. Maybe that stuff is going on, maybe there are giant lizard creatures destroying London, but we don't see it, we don't know, we just hear the echoes of things, and we hear those echoes also muted still further because their children are experiencing them, and children aren't rationalising, they can't rationalise, they don't know what's happening, they just experience. I think that makes it more frightening. And I've been surprised by how people have said they find the film quite disturbing and quite frightening. I mean, obviously I always wanted it to be a bit scary, but I think people find it more so because you don't know who's doing what to whom, and you don't know who you can trust. And it's happening to kids, obviously, as well. In some ways, it's also a survival story. But the thing that motivates the central character to survive is love. And she's somebody who at the start of the film doesn't really know what love is and hasn't been loved as a child. And then she learns to love, and that then becomes the reason to survive, the reason to live. And you know, that sounds maybe corny, but I think it's also a truth. And I think if you speak to people who have been through war, it is the thought of being with their family, thought of being with those that they love again, that can keep them going. And you know, the central character Daisy often feels like giving up, I think. But it's her desire to see Edmond, the boy she loves again, that keeps her going.
I want to be home with you. And that's how I live now.